individuals who have found themselves going through a challenge and a struggle at one point in time in their life where they were incarcerated, but they overcome certain obstacles and bounce back. And we'll take you through the journey of their life. And so today I have the privilege and opportunity to have a good friend, a guy who has done amazing things since he's been home. But his name is Justin Bird. How you doing, my guy?
Woo, man, I'm too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be
So yeah,
disappointed. Thank you for having me, brother.
Justin, I want to kind of let you know I cannot hear you because I think you went live on your device, which took my ear out. So if you I was listening to you through my headphones. So I don't know if you can get
Okay.
back on to that device
Yes, let me
and we
get
can
you
keep
back
that going
here.
because I cannot hear you.
Absolutely.
Let's see that.
Absolutely. Here we go. This is what you do
Whatever
is we
we
pivot, y'all. We pivit. So
did, we didn't do it. We done
we
did
we,
something.
we pivot.
So
So
let's
here we
see.
go. This is how we do. You make sure that you pivot. Charlene is in the
Yeah, that's a
building.
part
We
of it.
on live
We're
here.
gonna work
So
through it. We're gonna work through it. Here
let's
you go.
go.
We back in
All
business.
right. We back in business. We making it work. We pivot to
There
get
you
it. You know
go.
what I'm
We hear
saying?
you.
So again, there's a quick recap. Me and Stephen Loney are on right now, and it is his re-entry podcast that he's invited me on, and he's just basically introducing himself and myself. So let's get back to it.
That's what's up, man. So Justin, man, so glad to have you here, man. And so I just want to just let you know, man, we're gonna have a phenomenal conversation just dissecting your life. And through this journey, we're gonna be able to not only get an understanding of what you've been through and what's going on in your life, but we're gonna bless somebody else in the process. How about that?
Let's go. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, thanks again for having me, brother. Thank you so much, man. I'm glad to be here.
No doubt, man. So if you wouldn't mind, just take a few moments just to introduce yourself and let the people know who is Justin.
All right, thanks. Yes, my name is Justin with Justin Forming You, founder of Justin Forming You, co-founder of Biz Success Academy. I am here today as a new man. Let me just say, you guys, listen, I have turned a new leaf, so to speak. I grew up in the projects, and at age 5, I was in a gang, and I got into trouble early on. So, I've been to prison at an early age. At 20 years old, I was in prison, and now I've got stepped into the business realm, and I've got a team of people behind me that support me like no other. And right now you're seeing, like I said, a whole different Justin Bird than before. They used to call me JB. Some people still do. But I'm grown up, I'm mature, and I've left that life behind. I've stopped so many of the negative things, and we can get into that later. But right now, again, you're seeing a fresh, brand new me, so to speak. And I'm not looking back to the old me at all. So yes, again, thank you for having me, brother.
Man, that's what's up, bro. And so, like I said, we're gonna unpack a little bit about yourself. Like I said, I know you had a journey through different ups and downs and all around, but with all, you have become who you are now. And I always say, with your misery can actually become your ministry. And so we want to just kind of go back to where you're from, just about your coming, man. Tell me a little bit about how you journey from an early age.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we moved to the projects in Henderson, Nevada, which is right outside of Las Vegas. When I was 2 years old, a place called Highland Village, and it was the projects. I mean, and just think of the word itself, projects. You gotta wonder, why do they even call it the projects, right? I mean, you gotta wonder, like, who named it that and why. Because if you guys are familiar with the slums or like the ghetto, it's called the projects. And I think, in my opinion, it's called the projects for a reason, because I think it was a way for the government to really test and see what these kind of projects would be. You know what I mean? How piling on a bunch of people of the same race or whatever it may be, and see what the outcome may be. So we moved into the projects when I was 2, and I had a stepfather. I also had a father. So I was lucky enough to grow up with 2 dads in my life, so to speak. Some people don't even have one dad. So I had I was blessed to have two dads around me. So I had a stepdad and my father, and my stepdad raised us. His name was Raymond, rest in peace. And we grew up in the projects called Highland Village, and it was rough, But crazy part is we were like the only family in the hood that had like a mom and a dad. It was like single moms like everywhere. I mean, Father's Day was celebrated by all the moms in the hood, and you had the boyfriends that came, but like the whole dang project, it seemed like, was just like there was broken families everywhere. And so 5 years old, I got involved, and I got basically jumped in the gang at 5, and it was I wouldn't say downhill from there, but I got into a lot of trouble even as a kid. You might be thinking like, well, where were my parents? Well, my mom had two other kids, me and my brothers, both my brothers, and we were probably a handful, so to speak, but grew up in the projects, and it was rough. But again, my story's no different than anybody else's. So grew up in the projects, and then as I got a little bit older, we became homeless. Okay, so I was about 10 years old. We ended up moving out of the projects. My dad, I should say, my dad Raymond was a master carpenter, and so he made good money. He had a career. He did what he was doing, but he drank. My parents, they drank and they used substance, and I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know, I didn't really know much. I was a child, but I was 10 years old. We moved up to Carson City, Nevada, so my dad could work, right? And the people who we were living with, for whatever reason, we ended up getting kicked out of this place, ended up moving in our van. And our van it had a bed and a couch in it. And there was 5 of us and our 2 dogs. So me, both my brothers, my mom and dad in our van, sleeping in this van, middle of winter, Carson City. It's cold, right? Northern Nevada, the high desert. And I'll never forget the time when we jumped out of our van into the snow, going to school. And it was about 1.5 feet of snow. I get to school and I'm dating this girl, and I had wore the same outfit for 3 straight days, right? Same outfit, 3 straight days. And I'll never forget the look that she gave me. It was kind of like she was embarrassed to have me as a boyfriend kind of thing. That's how I took it. We ended up splitting up, breaking up for, being 10 or 11. And after that day, I said, I'm never going to feel like helpless again. I couldn't help the fact that I had to wear these same clothes 3 days in a row. So I vowed to myself, I'm not going to ever feel like that if I can help it again. So not too long after that, I started robbing. I started robbing cars. I started going and stealing little things to get money, whatever I had to do to kind of make ends meet for myself. Because my parents, again, were using, they were drinking, they fought a lot. And so, our home was like, we weren't even in a home. And so I got into robbing and stealing and thieving. And I went from, robbing cars to eventually robbing houses. Okay. So I was 12, 13 years old. I started robbing and stealing. And I got into what you might consider or call home invasions. So I never had a gun. I never hurt anybody. I mean, physically, I never hurt anybody. So before you know it, I was in a life of full-blown crime. I mean, I don't mean to glorify this in any way, but I was good at being able to go in people's houses without them seeing me and getting away with the stuff. And I know that sounds terrible, and by no means am I bragging. I'm just saying this was like a means of survival for me. And survival may not necessarily be the same to other people, but for me, it was like we had food, we had clothes, but again, feeling confident and comfortable, that's something that you can't really buy, right? You have to, there's certain things you have to abide by to be able to feel these emotions. And one of them was my appearance. And so again, like I said, that day where I had that feeling of like helplessness, of like I didn't feel confident in what I was wearing. And so here I am, 14, 15 years old, and I'm getting into houses at night, and I'm sneaking around, and I'm like going and getting in houses. And again, it went from robbing cars to now getting inside of houses while people were sleeping. And I did this for years. I did this for probably 5, 6 straight years. I did this sometimes several times a night. And I was good at it. And again, I don't mean to glorify this. I'm saying I was good at it by not getting caught good, not like good at like I was like going and hurting people. But I was able to go get in people's houses at night, and I found like a rhythm, so to speak, where I was able to go get all this stuff and then leave without being caught or hurt. But I was in a lot of danger. I was at any time somebody could see me coming down the hall and just shoot me, right? And so it was scary, but that was kind of part of the high of it. That was the part of the high was, being in there and not getting caught. And so I did this for years. And long story short, with how I went to prison, I ended up going to prison for these acts of burglary. And how I ended up getting caught and going to prison was somebody ended up telling on me, and I did a burglary, and they ended up arresting me for this. This lady told them, hey, I know who did this crime. And so I got in trouble they arrested me for home invasion, burglary, and night prowling. And so, and possession of stolen property. So I had got these 4 charges, got arrested, thrown in jail, and then I got on probation. So I got out, I was on probation. I had like 1.5 years of probation, 2 years or something like that. And so I ended up drinking on probation. Well, that ended up getting me sent up to prison. So being on probation they ended up, the charges that stuck were possession of stolen property, because I didn't go home invade. I wasn't carrying a gun. I wasn't harming anybody. I didn't even see the people, but I ended up going to prison. So, and after going to prison, well, I hope I'm not getting too deep into this, Stephen. I don't mean to get too deep. You said kind of just
right there because I'm going to unpack a little more. So primarily, like I say, this kind of makes sure I understand you grew up in a tough situation where you grew up in the projects, myself included. I understand what that like that lifestyle where you mostly had mothers and it kind of keep you confined because guess what you own government assistance, you just making enough money to keep going by. So I understand that. And from there, as you got older, you got jumped into go gang. So you had gang culture. You then you had parents who was on substance abuse, heavy drinkers, and then later on you end up staying in a vehicle. That's a lot of trauma you had to go through at an early age, and which led you to where a little crime. Then after that, man, now you find yourself in this spot. Now you face time. So now, but we at a spot where now you're facing this time. How much time are you facing? And let's just unpack how your journey was through that process of going into prison. And then we're gonna talk a little bit more once you get in there. What's that like?
All right, cool. Yeah, so I had 18. So it was a 1 to 3 was the sentence. In Nevada, it's like your time that you have in the beginning, it can't be more than double than the end part. With somebody who's not familiar with this, like it has to be like a 1 to more than 3. Like, anyways, the point is I had 1 year at least a minimum of 366 days to do, or I said 364. I think it was 366 days I had to do in the state penitentiary, and I had a maximum of 3 years, which would be 36 months. So, and when they told me this, they said, okay, we're going to suspend your sentence. And we're going to give you a year and a half of probation. And if you make it on probation, then, everything's good. You could be free. But again, I ended up getting, I was drinking on probation, and it got me thrown in prison. So on my way to prison, so I used to have this big afro, like I'm just saying, like a big afro, like straight, like what I mean, like it was literally as round as I could put my hands like up like this. It was round.
Okay.
I'll pick my hair out. So I'm in jail, and I'm picking my hair out. Right, I had long hair, picking my hair out, and they said, "Bird, roll it up." And they don't tell you when you're going to go to prison. Okay. They don't tell you, just for escape reasons. They don't want anybody to be able to try to intercept the van or whatever it is, how they're transporting you. So they just tell me to roll it up. Had I known I was going to prison, actually going to prison that night or that day, I wouldn't have picked my hair out, because I tell you what, having your hair picked out in a big afro is a danger. You know what I mean? Somebody just puts their hand out and puts it, it's going to get caught, and it's just a hazard. So I had my hair picked out, and then they roll me up to go to prison. And nobody coached me on what it's going to be like in prison. I didn't know. I mean, you hear stuff on TV, but I've been in jail hitting push-ups, working out. So I'm kind of ready, kind of thing, as ready as you can be to go to prison. I'm only 20 years old. And so, I finally get to prison, and I'm in High Desert State Penitentiary out in Las Vegas. This is Nevada. And this is a brand new yard. So from what I hear in jail, like people like, yes, this is gladiator school, because all the races are trying to run this. Everybody's trying to get a piece of like having the yard run by them. So they say it is gladiator school. So I was a bit worried. You know what I mean? I was a bit worried. And so I get to prison, and I got this afro, and I'm freaked out because I'm a white dude. And I'm like, I look like a black dude. You know what I mean? Like, what do you got an afro for? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. So first thing that happens when I get to prison, I see a buddy of mine, DJ Kelly, man, one of my good people. He's like, JB, what's up, man? And he looked at me like, what's up? What's up with the fro kind of thing? He's in the glass. He's behind the door. But so I end up, so I had a comrade in there, someone I knew. It was cool. Right off the jump, I already had somebody I knew in there. He was throwing me some food, but I didn't know what to expect, being, having my hair in a fro. And I was a bit scared. So they took my picture, right? They ended up taking my inmate photo. And I remember hearing the camera lens back up. like they had to back up for my afro. They got my whole afro in this photo and everything, bro. So I rock I have my ID. You had to have this ID at the time. You rock your ID. You had to have it on you at all times on the yard. And so I had this afro. They made sure they got the whole thing in there. So it was actually not a bad experience to get in there and have this afro. But I get in my cell, and obviously it's a race thing. So they put me in a cell with another white dude, and the first thing this dude does is he sits up, and he's like, this is my cell. You don't crap when I'm in here, and he was like starting to lay down the rules. I didn't know anything about prison. All I know is I had this net bag with, my laundry clothes, with brand new sheets, and like just the basics. Right. And I didn't know what to do. I just kicked my flip flops off, and I was like, what's up, bro? Let's go. I wasn't going to just let this dude punk me. So first thing, right, the first thing in the cell, bro, like me and my cellie were going at it. I threw down the cell, and this dude was yoked up. He was a little bit shorter than me, but he'd been in prison for a minute. Just by the way, he was stacked. And so I'm like, I didn't know what else to do except throw it with him. So put my bag down, kicked my flip flops off, and we went at it. Pam, 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 pam. This dude almost got me, bro, and I could fight. This dude almost got me, bro. I ended up choking this dude out like a python, bro. Like I remember tightening up and just like squeezing as hard as I could, man. And that was all I could do. And so we ended up being cool. He ended up telling the white boys this dude could fight, kind of thing. And so the next like day, the whites came up and they're like, when we had like they opened the doors and they're like, "What's up, Wood?" And so they were shaking my hand. I'm like, "Look, I'm not a Wood. I'm from a mixed race gang. I'm coming from the projects." And I just basically let them know, if you see me on the yard get jumped, just let me get jumped. And it was very controversial because if you guys have ever heard anything about prison, it's all race. You know what I mean? Everything is segregated in color. So for me to pull this, again, nobody showed me the ropes. Nobody told me how it was going to be. I just was like taking things in my own, like, you know what I mean? I don't know, but I felt like I wasn't going to change it who I was just because I came in here, which was very dangerous, very stupid, in fact. I mean, had I been, in a bit better mind, I might have actually, done what most people do and click up. But thankfully, I'm not the type to buckle. I held my own ground and was like, look, if you guys see me get jumped, let me get jumped. And they're like, all right, cool. And so, there's that. I got into prison and I basically established like I just want to be solo kind of thing. I don't want anything to do with the racist stuff. I'm only 18 months. I'm not in here long enough to be involved in any criminal stuff. I'm going home. I'm a short timer. I don't want to come in here and get wrapped up in anything. I'll be down if I come in here and meet a bunch of people who are knuckleheads. I don't want to come in here and meet friends. I don't need anybody from in here to tell me how to be or do. I'm already a leader. I don't need somebody to show me how to follow. So that's how it was when I first got there. I got to a scuffle with my cellie, and then he let the white dudes know I could fight, and they're like, "Cool, what's up?" I'm like, "No, thank you. I don't want nothing to do with it." And so they ended up taking me and 5 other white dudes from what's called the fish tank. If you guys aren't familiar with the prison term, the fish tank is where you first go to prison. You get put in like this, like a holding spot where they figure where they're going to put you. They're like, okay, where are we going to put him over here? Is he supposed to be a max? Max meaning like, is he like a very violent offender, or should we put him on like, on a yard with like less offenders, like very low class C felons kind of thing. And so while they're figuring that out is when I got into the scuffle. Well, when they figured out classifications, what they call it, they end up taking me and 5 of the white dudes and putting us, this is crazy. The yard, like I said, was brand new, and there was a war between Mexicans and blacks. And so as white, we're neutral at this time between both races. So they took me and 5 of the white dudes from the fish tank, and they take us, and we walk. And this yard is huge. The high desert yard is huge. It's like a square mile all the way around. It's like a square mile. And so they take us from the fish tank to Unit 7, and they open these things called the Sally Port doors. You guys, this is crazy. Check this out. So they open the Sally Port doors, and what the Sally Port doors is, they open up, you go in, they close that behind you, and then they open up another door. Okay, so they take us 5 white dudes, they open the Sally Port, we go in, and on the right-hand side is a whole unit of white dudes. And on the left-hand side is a whole unit of black dudes. So I'm for sure thinking that they're going to put us 5 white dudes in with the white dudes. That's just how it is. It didn't happen. Check this out. So they opened up the black unit. It was the craziest thing ever, bro. Like, they opened up the black unit, and they just, like, scooted us in. And we're like, what? They're like, what? What are you guys doing? And I'm like, for sure thinking they're just going to turn around, open the door, and put us back in the white unit because it's, like, right there. Well, come to find out, the people who were in that unit were from West Wyoming. They were from Wyoming, so they were like overflow from Wyoming for whatever reason. But they had PlayStations and all kind of stuff over there. So, but we're in the black unit, and first thing that happened when they pushed us in there, they're like, "Scoot us, okay, go." You know what I mean? We're like, "What in the world is going on here? How are they putting us in on the black unit?" You know what I mean? So they shut the door behind us, and first thing I see on the ground was a cigarette. So I see this cigarette on the ground, and at this time you can smoke cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes at the time, so I went and grabbed the cigarette, and the white dudes were like, "No, you can't do that." Right? They're like, "You can't do that." I'm like, I'm not even with you dudes. What are you talking about? I can't do that. You know what I mean? And again, I don't know the rules, you guys. I'm just winging it. I mean, I'm just this little white dude from the projects. Just, you know what I mean? I'm not thinking I'm badass. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just doing my own thing. You know what I mean? And it's working out. It seems like the beat's working out. You know what I mean? So, and I told him, like, look, I'm not one of these dudes. So I picked that thing up, got a light from one of the blacks, and started hitting the cigarette, and it was cool. So, so now that we're in this new unit, the whites were kind of like, all right, now we have our own car. You're in our car. And they're like basically telling me, like, we're very small in here. You have to be in our car kind of thing. And I'm like, look, man, no offense, but I'm not being in your, I mean, it's like, you have to be, dude. You're a white dude. You're wood. And I'm like, I'm not, bro. I'm not. So, and so I went to the shot caller. And I'm like, if we got to go at it, bro, let's go. And again, I'm not trying to be a badass. I'm not trying to go after the number. I'm like, if me and you got a scuffle for it, I'm with it. I'm not going to be in this racial stuff, bro. I'm not. You're not going to have me saying anything but hello and hi. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. And so we came to a decision. We're like, all right, cool. You do your thing. Don't even, I mean, basically it was kind of like, don't even come to us for anything, which I was cool with. So long story short, the blacks, I call them the blacks, they're on the back beating on something. I rap. I don't know if y'all know this, but the people who do know me, I rap, I freestyle, and I'm crazy with it. So these dudes are beating on something and they're getting down. So I go up there and I start rapping. I just jump in and start killing it. And these dudes are like, oh, the white boy's sick with it. And so remember, I got the fro. And I don't have a fro right now. I've got it, in a ponytail. And people were loving it, bro. It was like, this dude's dope. So they basically took me under their wing. So the blacks were like, if anything pops out, Bird, we got your back. Call it what you want. Anybody who's listening to this, call whatever you want to call it. But I was like, cool. I wasn't against it because you know what? The blacks, it was the one cool thing I loved about this was that they weren't worried about who you were sitting with, who you're playing cards with, who you were smoked with. They was really focused on themselves, which I was cool with. I'm like, that's how, yeah, I'm going to do me, you do you. Don't worry about what I'm doing with whoever else. And I enjoyed that. I was like, I'm cool with that. So I learned a lot from just that simple first few weeks being in prison. But one thing I will say is having the time away from people was probably the most traumatic thing of everything. Because there was a point where my cellie left and I didn't have anybody around me for quite a bit of time, a few weeks where it was like just me in this cell and there was like nobody to talk to. And I'm saying like being secluded, it was like, it's terrifying for me anyways, not having anybody to talk to. What time is it? Am I a jerk? Anything is better than nothing. Just somebody come talk to me, tell me I'm an asshole. Anything is better than nothing. So it was rough because I didn't have any interaction with people. I'm like begging the guards, hey, I'm trying to talk to them. It was rough. And it was for a few weeks, but you guys, can you imagine being fully like by yourself, locked away, nothing but your thoughts for like weeks at a time? It's disruptive. It's disturbing. And then it makes you want to be violent. It makes you just want to, just get me out of here. So there was ups and downs. The upsides were being that I was able to, I was really just able to see that I'm a very strong person. And even in a place like prison where most people, they go click up and join a gang or like they want protection. I didn't feel like I had to do that. And I don't know if you want to call it luck or if it's just being strong-willed. I was able to just say, hey, look, just let me do my thing. So I learned a lot just in the early stages of being in prison up to that point.
Man, that's good, bro. And what I'm getting from you, man, let's say the impact that I got was that you just kept on being who you were. You didn't conform to what others wanted you to do. You stayed true to you. And by doing that, I'm not saying everybody who did that actually had the same outcome, but you were willing to put everything on the line in order for you to stay, stand to say it's being same to you. And in that we gain respect from others. And and let me ask you this. While you was there, what were some of the things that you learned about you? And also, how did you apply yourself? Because you said you had 18 months that you had to sit there. And I share this with guys who I have opportunity to talk to that find themselves while I'm in the prison talking to these guys. Prepare yourself for where you want to be, not for where you are or where you've been. And so let me ask you, what were some of the things that you used that time to prepare you for your next?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I got chills right now because what it does is it brings back so many good memories. And for you guys who are watching on live, check this out. Like legitly, when I was in prison, it was probably one of the best experiences of my whole life because I allowed it to be. It wasn't just me getting put in prison and then like laying on a bed and just like, oh, my time's just gonna pass by. Hell no. I gave him every second back. And when I say every second back, I mean like I did so good by health wise. Like I was like, it didn't matter how many push-ups I did, but there was days where I was doing 1,000 push-ups in a day. And I know for those who may not think that's possible, like that's legitly what I did. They're not every day, obviously, but there's days where I'll bust them out 100. And I was able to get not only my mind right, but my body right, meaning like the internals of my body. I stopped eating sugar completely. Like anytime they give us food with like, because in prison, and especially like in camps and stuff, they give you big old cakes. They give you huge cakes, and like they give you with a bunch of sugar and like, so I would trade those for like people's salads. You know what I mean? So I was like, I started getting mentally like, aware of my body, of like, how strong my mind is how strong my body is. So I'm like, so I was really focused on, so when I was in the black unit, there was the only Mexican dude in the yard. His name was Vato Whack. He had said, he said, I'll train you to work out. He was big. This dude was huge, and he's like, I don't work out with nobody. He's like, but I'll train you. For some reason, I can see you got heart. So he trained me how to work out. So I learned how to really like work out and like use my mind to like work out every muscle. So I was physically getting in shape, mentally getting in shape. And so, and they ended up moving me from this yard to a camp because I was really a Class C felon, and I'm in with murderers. Let me just tell you guys this: my cellie was a white dude in the black unit, but when I came out, I would talk to the dudes next to me, and they were black dudes. And the one next to me, I remember me and him talked for a few weeks, and then he finally told me, he's like, "Man, I got 2 life sentences plus 90 years," and I'm like, I didn't know what to say to that. Like that kind of scared me. I was like, wow, normal dude. I mean, he wasn't. And until he told me that, I didn't think anything, negative. I wasn't like worried about anything. But after he told me that, I'm like, I don't even want to know what this dude did. But it made me kind of like want to go curl up in a ball. I'm like, dang, I'm around these murderers. So I had to go I actually asked to talk to my caseworker, like, why am I on this yard for like 4 months? I'm on this yard with like murderers. And I'm not saying that people are all bad. I'm just saying like I'm in a penitentiary full of murderers when I'm only, I'm Class C felon. I'm in there for, minimal crimes. I'm not saying to anybody who's listening to this that my crimes were minimal, that me going out and robbing people at night was nothing less than a bad thing. But there's people out there that were murdering, raping, hurting kids. And I'm in this unit with them. And so he tells me he had this life sentence, he had 2 life sentences plus 90 years. And I'm like, man, why am I on this yard? Like, I don't know what these other dudes they're in there for, but at any minute, any one of them can go snap and kill me. So I'm like, man, I got to get out of here, bro. So as fun as it was the reality sank in like, dang, I could be hurt at any minute. You know what I mean? And so I went to my caseworker and I said, what am I still doing? And they said, we're waiting for this paperwork for your paperwork. I was like, I got that in my room. And they said, well, go get it. And I said, I went to my room that day, got it, and they shipped me out like the next day. So they were waiting for this paper, this report. I don't know what it was, intake, or maybe, I don't know if it's discovery or what it was, but I had it in my room, went and got it. And then so they shipped me off. It was literally like 2-3 days later, they shipped me off to camp. And so I got to Carlin camp, and it was similar, but it was a little different. It wasn't as much politics, but I had a new crew of white dudes that were like wondering why I'm this white dude that wasn't like basically conforming to what everybody else was doing. So I'm this white dude that had an afro again. And as soon as I get there, a good buddy I grew up with was like the shot caller for this yard. And so I'm sitting at the table with the white dudes, and I got the afro, and this dude, he said, hey, Berg, they're out there waiting for you. You need to come out here. So I take my tray, get it, put it up, go outside, and I got these 5 or 6, they're called hammerhead skins. They're like, hey, you can't be sitting at the table with us with an afro and this and that. So I'm like, I had these ponytail things on my wrist. So I just threw my hair back, and I'm ready to get it with these dudes. I'm just saying, like, I'm not trying to be a badass, but if somebody pushes me, trust me, I'm getting it. And so these 6 dudes are ready to jump me. I'm like, I put my hair up in a ponytail, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. And my homie, who was the shot caller, came out like, hold up, y'all don't want nothing to do with Bird, bro. He could scrap, first of all, and he vouched for me. He came up and he vouched for me, and it was dope. Me and him are still in contact to this day. He actually was up in my house like 3 weeks ago. He was letting my lady Leti know true stuff. What he's talking about is true story. So I got someone to vouch for this. This actually happened, you guys. But so I put my ponytail up, and he came back and was like, yeah, y'all don't want nothing to do with Bird. So luckily I didn't have that trouble there. But I'm saying all to say that I once I got to camp, I really got involved with like working out. And I even started my education again, because I had graduated high school. But when I graduated, I didn't pass something they had called a proficiency exam. So I graduated, and I got to walk on stage, but I only got a high school diploma for attendance. It was called an attendance diploma. So I didn't actually have my actual diploma. So in prison, in Carlin camp, I was able to study for my diploma, and actually graduated in there. So I was not only getting my mind, my body, but my education up. And like, I'm doing things, I'm testing what I could do, like running 5 miles a day, like, you know what I mean? and there's things I'm just testing my will. And here's the kicker. And for all you guys watching here, here's the kicker, you guys. I realized that I wasn't in this place with all these people that were like, that were like violent and rapers and these things that were like bad things, right? I wasn't in there for the things that I got caught for. I was in there for the things that I didn't get caught for. And that's when it really sank in, like, damn, this place should be a life-changing place. And that's when I really started going all in on myself. Because, I mean, it was like I had to really reflect. I was able to reflect on the things that I had done in the past rather than be a victim of my own stuff, so to speak. Because, again, there's a lot of people in prison that were like, they're there, but they're like what we call knickknacks, where they're just kind of like there. They're not really doing anything to better themselves. They're just kind of like, they got their TV, they just got their junk food, and they're just kind of sitting there. And no, nothing against anybody, to each his own. But for me, I wasn't going to be one of those dudes that didn't get something from this. If I'm sitting behind these walls that you all are forcing me to be behind, which I put myself there, I'm going to get something out of this. I'm going to get the most out of this. I'm going to see what all I can get from this. And I started just like eating the whole system up. Like, I'm getting every bit back. And so I started doing that. And so I don't want to keep on, talking if you want to intervene for anything, Stephen.
You hitting on some things I wanted to go into, meaning that you now realize, man, I'm going to maximize, I'm squeeze this lemon till it's nothing else. But what was some of the things that you now learned? Now, of course, you got your health on track, you got eating good. Now, in your mind, what's some things you picked up on? Meaning, whether if you start reading certain books, you start learning certain skills, what's some of those things that you start doing? Is who you start connecting yourself with that playing a main part into your development?
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you asked that. So there was really like, we didn't have the biggest selection of books for whatever reason, either in the actual yard or even in Carlin camp. But I was reading like, and I wasn't really too much into the self-help books or anything like that. So I was really just reading like, mysteries and things like that. But however, the things that I did learn, a lot of this stuff was more or less self-reflection, because I had a daughter, shout out to my daughter, Brett. She turned 25 yesterday. And here's the thing. So when I was in there, as popular as I thought it was on the streets, like I'm in there waiting for mail to come in. I'm like in there like, man, I got all kinds of people that want to, they got to be missing me. And I'm not getting no letters and stuff. So it was like, that was the heartbreak. And I'll get back to your question here in a second, but I wanted to touch on this to say how impactful it was to not have the support that I would think that I was going to have. Right. Because I mean, a lot of the time doing time is really about support. If you got the support system, then you have it a little bit better, so to speak. And I don't mean that you're not still locked away, but having that extra support of people who write you, people that, are showing some love and giving you packages. Packages are when you get like, people send you commissary or shirts or stuff that you can function with and have a little bit more in there. So I didn't have really much of that, And so in fact, I was writing people with an envelope with a stamp on it. I would send an envelope out with an envelope in it, with a stamp on it, with the paper in it. The only thing I wasn't doing was writing a letter for them. That's how desperate I got. I was like, damn, don't nobody miss me? But one thing I didn't realize is like, I put myself in there and I can't expect for others to do my time with me because life goes on. But I mean, even with that being said, I was still hoping that people would, hey, at least write your boy something. Man, I had a whole neighborhood of homies that like, damn, y'all can't write me a letter at nothing, not realizing that life goes on out there. So again, like being in there, I learned so much. And that's, again, when I started realizing like, it's up to me to start doing the work for me. And so some of the things I started learning was, picking up like who I'm around, like the habits of being around the right people. When I started working out, I would have people come up to me. Here's a lesson that I learned was I'd have people come up and want to work out with me. And they'd see me working by myself. And I had a lot of people like, hey, Bird, let me be your workout partner. So, all right, cool. So, I would have somebody come start working out with me, and they would be like a no-show after like 2 or 3 days. It would just be like, I have to go to their room or go to their bed. Like, hey, you coming to work out or what? And it would be like over and over. I had this consistent, like people like not wanting to show up. I was going and working hard on myself every day. I was working 6 days a week. I was working out. And people were seeing it and they wanted to be a part of that. They see the drive, they see the energy, they see I got the, the what it takes to keep going. And so after about, 6 or 7 people telling me they want to work out and then not showing up, I was like, man, I don't even need a workout partner. I'll just hit what I can on the bench. Everything else I could do on my own. Every now and then I'll get like help with somebody. But for the most part, I was like, I don't want nobody to, I could funk myself. I can mess up on my own. I don't need somebody else to be dependent on and not show up. So I learned the skills of like really believing in myself and not really having the dependency on anybody else, even for things such as working out. You know what I mean? Because working out, if you're hitting the bench, you can get hurt. If you're working out, you push too hard, you can't get it back up. That thing's gonna be on your neck. You could die. There's a lot of things that could happen. So it's dangerous. But I learned how to, I learned my limits, so to speak. And so having the right who's around me has been a big plus since then, seeing like what kind of person I do want around me or I don't want around me. And, the ones who talk and then aren't pulling through, that's cool, but I just don't want to need them around me either. So that was one of the things I picked up in there. And, really just my self-worth of what I'm capable of doing. I had my daughter, she was only about 4 at this time when I'm in prison, and, writing to her, getting letters every now and then from her back. That was a big deal. That was a big deal. Getting the little bit of love that I got, it just boosted my confidence just that much more. You know what I mean? Because being away from home alone, so to speak, I could have been involved with the stupid stuff. I could have been involved with the people that were doing these terrible things, but I didn't want to. I'm in here to really reshape my life. I'm not in here to pick up any more terrible friends. I got enough of those on the streets. So I learned a lot of self-therapy, so to speak, on how to keep myself together and not have to feel like I got to conform to anything. I hope that kind of answers your question a little bit. I know it wasn't directly related to what you had said, but I didn't really have the books that I wanted.
Some of the things, even though, let's look at it like this, put it like this. Some of the guys I've spoken to that actually start doing some phenomenal things once they got out. It didn't start when they got out, but it started while they were there. They learned one principle that I always drive home to as many people I can. It's a difference on being a giver and a taker. When you travel to learn that we have been given life to sow seed, you start preparing yourself to receive increase in different ways. So what you sow is what you reap. And so let me ask you this: when you were there, what was it that clicked to you or helped you realize, man, this is something that I need to do more of in order to prepare myself for when I get out? It can actually put me in a position to do something greater, not just for me, but for others. Did you get that while you was there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question too. And the fact is, what? I had one of the guards come up to me and it's like, Bird, you seriously do not belong here. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of people come and go, been here for years. You don't belong here. And that's really what I think ended up being which really, it guided me to where I knew, okay, this isn't for me. And let me just say, I only went to prison one time. That's all I needed. And I'm telling you, that alone itself, the statistics at that point were like 89% of the people who go to prison end up going back. And so for me to beat the odds and never to go back yet, I don't even need to knock on wood because I do well. I do good. But so it was a prison guard. I call him Spacely Sprocket. I don't know if you guys remember the Jetsons, but there was the Jetsons, George Jetson's boss was named Spacely Sprocket. And I used to rap. And he looked like Spacely Sprocket. And so I called him Spacely Sprocket. And then he's like, you're the first one that's ever called me that. And so it was actually a prison guard who was like, man, he pulled me to the side. He's like, and this is after him seeing me rap and battle and beat all these dudes in these battles like week after week after week. And he pulled me to the side. He's like, man, you really don't belong here. I don't know what it is about you, but you're just different than most people who come through here. I'm sure he did his homework and seen that I was in there for night prowling, burglary, and, but all the things that I was in trouble for, I only got caught for the one thing. I mean, I had been in trouble as a kid, but as an adult, I had got caught for this one thing. And so I'm sure he could see that, yeah, I've been in trouble, you know what I mean? But he could see also the good side of me, the people that know me, the people that who know me, know my heart. I got a good heart, you know what I mean? And so he told me, like, I just don't see why you're even in here. And it just gave me that, like, he's right. What am I doing in here? So I'd vouched, like, this is going to be the only time. I don't need to come back here. I get what I need to do. And that's, It's not to stop stealing. It's obviously you're not going to do anything bad. I don't want to put myself in the position to come back to prison, but I wasn't in there again for the things that I got caught for. It was time to reflect on all the stuff that I didn't get caught for, and there was a lot. There was a lot of nights where I had went in people's houses and they woke up and their entire living room was gone. Their keys were gone. Their car was gone. Their purse was gone. Their stereos were gone. I mean, like, can you imagine waking up at night or in the morning, go to get, ready for work or school or whatever it is, and your purse is gone and your stereo is gone in your living room, your car's gone. Like this was like, I did this several times where people were hurt, and I'm sure they probably thought it was their neighbor or their kid, or I probably caused a lot of drama, things that were, that I could have prevented just simply by not doing these things. But again, I'm not blaming this on how I grew up. I'm not saying it was anyone's fault. I had, I didn't have to go do this stuff. I had control over what I wasn't doing. But I think this whole prison, this adventure, you could say, it was an eye opener. It was really like, I went to this muddy place, and I was able to get through this and not only come out on the other end shining, like I was like top of my game. I got out of prison. I was like in the best shape, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Like I was fully prepared to take life on. I mean, to the fullest. Like couldn't nobody stop me. And I was like, I was right here in my mind. Like I was good. I got good with God. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I read the Bible. I read like literally the entire Bible. I mean, like granted, there was parts that I didn't understand and I kind of skimmed through, but I read it cover to cover because again, we didn't have the best literacy in there. And so I ended up reading the book, cover to cover. And I didn't really understand a lot of it, but I knew I felt good because when I read Proverbs, I believe I'd get into Proverbs, read Proverbs, and it was almost like it was talking to me. And for you guys who read the book, that Proverbs can be that kind of guidance for you. You're going through some Proverbs, it ends up being a great guidance for what you may be going through. So I read a lot of the Bible, and it was a really grand time to be alive for me. I was like, it was great. Even in like the worst places in the world, like I'm able to see the light. I'm able to see the positive in stuff. And so that guard, he's like, it doesn't make any sense why you're in here. And it clicked, something triggered in me. Like, he's right. You know what I mean? And so that day was when I really started turning inward, which I had already been doing, but it clicked in me like, okay, I need to really go even deeper on what am I doing here? Why am I here? And so that's when that was the day where my life changed, so to speak. And I knew I was never going to be the type to go back into prison again. So, yeah.
Man, you getting on some good stuff, man. Something I'm hearing you say is that you found freedom in your darkest hour. You realize even when you were free, you were bound. But now when you found something, I'm going to say you had a revelation, or you had a revealing of who God was in your life. And when God revealed himself to you, now you saw who you really were. And you start walking into that authority and start building your kingdom man to be who God created you for. And so now that you realize you have power, not just through your action, but who you're being, now you start walking in it. And now that you start moving into space of getting released, let's exit and kind of talk about those final steps of you getting free. But even before you got free, how are you operating in that man? What were some of the things you was able to do behind the wall that would bring forth change, not only in your life, but the lives of others?
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Great question. So, this is a fun fact. Well, I wouldn't say a fact, but this is more of a positive side on being in there. I was really looking to make the best out of it. Right. So, as I said earlier, being able to rap and have, people be like, dang, this dude's good. When I got to camp, it was like every weekend because people knew that I rap from off the streets, that I knew in this camp, because I knew people that were in the prisons and also in this camp that knew me for rapping. So they're like, yeah, this dude could rap. So on the weekends, and I believe it was Sunday evenings, we would have a battle session. And so, and I'm gonna share a real quick bar. One of the first bars I ever did in prison. The first bar was this dude. His name was Mike. He had a gap in his teeth. His name was Mike. Shout out to Mike, man. I ain't seen him in years. I'm going to battle him, and he had a gap in his teeth. And I said, it's a battle. So there's like probably like 30, 40 people around this battle. And it was the first one we had. So I got to go first. We flipped the coin and I got to go first. I rocked his paper. I forgot what it was. And so my bar was this, and his name's Mike. He had a big gap. And I said, this dude can't rap, let alone speak. Gap so fat he could floss his teeth with a sheet. And it lit up people, right? So this was the debut of my battling in prison. So what it did was it solidified like that, okay, not only am I like, I'm solid with working out and these other things, but now they know me as like this battle rapper. So I'm getting closer to being out at this point. Like I've got maybe like 5-6 months left, and I'm in here in this yard and I'm getting like a fan base in prison. I've got like people that are like, I'm helping them win money because they're betting on the side, you know what I mean? And so that prison guard that I was telling you about, the one that said I don't belong in here, he was coming to the battles every week and seeing what I'm doing, tearing these dudes up, and he was a fan. He loved it. And so I'm getting closer and closer to the door, closer and closer to home, and I've been saving up money, right? So I was working on the forestry. It was like Nevada NFS, Nevada Forestry. And so I was able to basically work from prison on the street. So here's what it looked like. So the camp I was at had barbed wire, right? You got the fence, you got the barbed wire, but here's the thing, the barbed wire was facing outward. So you would think in prison, it's like you have the barbed wire facing inward, so you can't climb over. Well, in this yard, this was a minimum yard, meaning you could jump out if you want, but you go out here, you're going to be put on a max yard and you're getting like 2 or 3 years extra put on your sentence. A lot of people who are on this yard were going home within like the next 2 or 3 years. If you mess this up, it's really stupid. So go ahead and run. So the fence was made to have others who are outside from coming in. And I'm saying that to say that there was a minimum yard. We were out on the streets working. And so I was saving up money. I was able to save up. I saved up like, close to $2,000. I forgot what I was making in there. But when I went on the streets and worked, like when we had like fires and stuff we had to fight, it was like, I want to say it was like $10 a day or $20 a day, or I forgot how much it was. Might have been $10 an hour. I don't remember. But I ended up, saving up some money. So I'm getting closer and closer to the fence. We call it to the gate. And I've got like, I ended up paying somebody to airbrush my clothes. Like I had this Fat Farm. You guys remember Fat Farm? Fat Farm back in the day was pretty big. And I had him spray paint this Fat Farm. And so I'm getting ready to get out in the streets. And I'm like, I'm excited because I've been down for 17, 18 months. And I've been really working on myself. And, I've got some support at home. I've got my mom and my brother. I can go parole to their apartment out out in Vegas. And I wasn't looking forward to getting released to Vegas only because it's like getting back on the streets. Like I'm mentally prepared for whatever comes my way. I'm obviously a strong person, I feel. And so, but getting back home to like the same trouble, because my homies are like, shout out to all my homies, but we got in a lot of trouble. It wasn't the best place to be, is to get out and be right back into the funk, be right back into the system of where getting into fights and having to, it was heavy. So I was dreading the fact of going back to where I had to worry about looking over my shoulder. That wasn't something I was looking forward to, but what can you do? I didn't really have any other family anywhere else. So, I'm ready to get out the door. And as I'm about to leave prison, it's coming close to the day I'm getting out. And I was a bit nervous because if you guys have seen some of the stories on TV and things, people who get out, they end up, you can get comfortable in prison. And I know it sounds crazy. It sounds insane, because who wants to be in a place where you're locked up, but you get confined and conformed to that lifestyle. And granted, it was only a short period of time, but mentally, it don't need to take a bunch of time. You don't need to it could be a week and you could break, you know what I mean? And I was, you get used to your environment you're in. And so I had known everybody, and I was like comfortable, and I wasn't in like a cell anymore. I'm in this bunk, and I had a TV and a remote to my TV. And like, I had my program. I had everything that I needed to do. I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about any drama on the streets. I didn't have to pay no rent. It was like 3 hots in the cot. I had my meal taken care of. So I'm just giving some insight on how it can be for people who get conformed to that lifestyle of being, comfortable, even in the most uncomfortable place. You get used to that. So it's like, I was good. I was like, not that I wanted to be there by any means. I was ready to go home. But I was like, there was that little bit of a, that I was hesitant. I was like, dang, what am I going to do when I get out? How's it going to be? Kind of, and it's like, again, it's really in your mind. And so getting closer and closer, I was getting anxious because I wanted to go home, but at the same time, I was a little bit nervous about what's going to happen when I do get home. So leading up to the gate, the day of the gate, I had my money that I had saved up. I had my clothes that I had actually, in fact, when the clothes, I had to do spray paint this, and I had sewed this. I was like into sewing. I like to sew. I was like, I like to sew and make cool stuff and gear. And so I had my clothes, I creased them up and folded them and put them under my mat so that when I go home, it'll be creased up. Right. So I was ready to go. And, come time to get released. And this was kind of cool. This is actually really cool. When it was release date, like I said, I had my gear, everything ready. I was mentally ready. And the Spacely Sprocket officer come up to me like, is the date, is time to leave? And I'm saying goodbye to everybody going together. And like at this time, like everybody knew me, like legit, even people who were just like really just like there to do their time. Like everybody knew me in a positive way. And I made an impact. And I'm like, I was proud of that because I'm leaving. I'm like getting hugs and like daps and like people were like, man, we're going to miss you, going to miss you. And it was like, it was kind of sad. You know what I mean? It was kind of sad. It was, it would be honest with you. It's like a weird thing to be sad leaving prison, but I knew these people like very deeply. I knew these people and they'd been to these battles and we'd shared and broke bread. And so as I'm leaving, the guard comes up to me and he says, Bird, come here. He kind of like does this little secretive, like, come here. He's like, hey, you want to get on the microphone before you leave? I'm like, what you mean the microphone? He's like, come in the bubble and I'll let you rap on the microphone over the intercom. I said, well, this is true. So I said, say less, bro. Absolutely. Because again, he was a fan of what I was doing. He told me like every time we get done rapping, he'd come up and the guards aren't supposed to text you, but he'd come up and put his arm around me like, you got him that time. You killed that dude. That was cool. So you want to get on the mic? I said, absolutely. So he's like, he gets in there. He's like, he told me the way outside the bubble. He's like, hang on. He's like, hey, everybody, you guys know it's Justin Bird's day of going home today. He's made impact. I've asked him if he wanted to get on the intercom to rap for you guys. You guys okay with that? You guys good with Justin getting up here and rapping? And they're like, yeah, because you have 3 halls where like this hall, A hall, C hall, B hall, and it was like, you're like, yeah, and it was like it felt good to have that. The people that were not just excited to see me go home, but wanted to hear that last final rapping bar, so to speak. And again, there's people in here who don't even listen to rap, but they were coming to these battles. So I was able to get on this microphone leaving prison, and having the guard let me in the bubble was like unheard of. You know what I mean? Like you're now entering their domain. You're in their space where they got shotguns and you know what I mean? And like I'm going home though. Like, you know what I mean? I'd be a fool to grab one of the shotguns and do something. But hey, it's possible. People do that kind of shit. You know what I mean? People do that kind of stuff. Excuse me. And so I get on the mic and my mind is geared toward leaving. And so the rap is like, I'm gonna miss this place that I got better places to go. I'm not gonna forget you guys. And the rap came out super dope. And it was like a teared, I teared up, and it was like one of those emotional times. Like this was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life, and I'm a little bit emotional about it because it was fantastic. I took the dirtiest water you could find, and I was able to filter it with my goodness and make it like the most refreshing thing you could ever imagine, especially where I was at. You know what I mean? So it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life, man, and I wouldn't take it back for anything. I wouldn't.
Man, that's good, man. What I'm thinking about, and I do a thing of Soul Food Sunday, and I go on live and I talk about something that I may be inspired from, maybe a lot of times from the scriptures or whatever, but something that I heard even the day my pastor was talking on was about in the journey of serving others and helping them in their life. We have to have conviction. Not saying you condone sin or certain thing wrong, but how you approach it is important. Do you approach it with a strong hand or do you do it with love and compassion? And that's what draw others unto you. Not about what you say, not how much you beat across them, but how you just show compassion and love them in their situation. Now they're open to hear and receive what you say because now they know you care. You come from a place of care, heart. And so with that, man, and those guys were able to receive you because they knew you personally, and also they know your heart, and they saw you operating you were true to who you said you were. And so even there, when you transition from being in the prison, knowing that you're going back to a place that you were familiar with, you're going back into the lion's den, you're going back into a situation that can easily draw you back in. What was that like for you now that you stepping back into the streets?
Man, this is crazy. So I'm on the bus from Carlin Camp, Nevada, which is northern Nevada, and I'm going down to Reno, which is about a 3.5, 4 hour bus ride. And as I'm on this bus, uh, I'm thinking about what my life's gonna be like. And so I end up touching down in Reno, and I got one of my close friends pick me up, and he drove all the way from Vegas up to Reno, which is like a 6.5, 7 hour drive to pick me up so that he could take me back down home. But my daughter was in Reno. So I came from Carlin Camp, northern Nevada, Reno, which is mid Nevada, and then south, in Vegas, Henderson, where I'm from, was south Nevada. So I'm in Reno. My buddy picked me up, Mike Cortez. Shout out to Mike. He came pick me up, and I got on the phone with my brother and my mom, who I was going to parole to, and I had like I think 8 to 10 months on parole. You know what I mean, because I was basically kind of getting out early because I did everything I needed to do in the joint, and you get good time for like getting your diploma and for getting other certifications. And I had been programming, so I had got some time taken off my front end, meaning that you have a minimum of a year, 364 days, but I was able to get out from the 18 months that I had to do earlier from the 18 months. So I was like, I don't know, I was like 16 and a half months in. So I got like a month and a half early. So as I'm getting out, I'm in Reno. I call my brother and my mom in Vegas, and they're like, dang, we hate to say this, but we just got kicked out of the house I'm supposed to parole to. And so here's the thing. If you're paroling, you have to have a place to go to. You can't just go out and not have a place. If you don't have a place to go to, they put you either in a halfway house or you go back to prison. There's no other way to do it. They need to have you stationed in a place that they can know that you're safe and you're sound, that you're not just going to go out back in the streets and get in trouble. So I was like, damn, like I'm over here. I just touched down, got to see my daughter, Brea. And I'm like, oh, shoot, now what? You know what I mean? Now what? Now what am I supposed to tell my parole officer? I'm afraid before I even get home, I'm going to get rolled back up and put back in jail. So I'm like, damn, I got to make this work somehow. I'm like a go-getter. I'm not going to let anything keep me from doing what I need to do, but I don't want to lie to my parole officer either. So I said goodbyes to my daughter, made my way back down to Vegas. And sure enough, I got to where I was supposed to parole to. My mom and my brother came, picked me up from my buddy Mike's house, and there was an orange sticker on the door. And so my dad had passed away when I was 17. He got murdered at 17. Crazy story. Let me just kind of backtrack. One of these stories that happened to me as a kid, me and my dad got in an argument. The police just raided our house for me robbing stuff. And my dad was like, they were really upset that I had the cops at the house. But long story short, I told my mom, F you, B, and I cussed at her. And my dad jabbed me. Boom, he hit me. First time he ever hit me. He looked like Hulk Hogan, big dude, big dude. He never hit us until that day. And I said, F you, I hope you effing die. And I left the house. I ran out the house, ran away, and he ended up dying that night. My dad got killed that night. The last time I seen him, I said, F you, I hope you die. Craziest story that happened. Changed my life forever. I wore this burden on me. And so now I'm out of prison, and I'm here, and my dad's urn with his ashes are inside the apartment. And so this is crazy. Call me crazy. You call it what you want to call it, but I had to get my dad's urn out of the house. So I just got out of prison, y'all. Call it what you want. I had to do what I had to do, because my dad his stuff was about to be taken. I don't know what's going to happen. So what I do first 5 minutes out of prison is I broke into this house to get my dad. Legitly, like for real. That's on everything I love. Like first thing out of prison, like I got to get my dad. Like, what would you do? What would you do? You know what I mean? Like now I'm facing even another felony charge for breaking in, but I got to get my dad. All this stuff that I just done learned in prison, it wasn't out the window, but it was like, the last time I see my dad was like, I feel like I almost killed him in a sense by telling him, I hope you die. He ended up getting murdered. It was the last time I seen him. And I'm like, dang, my dad's in there. My mom's like, dad's in there. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, my heart's pounding. I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting out but I couldn't really blame anybody. You know what I mean? I was hoping that my mom would have stuff. But again, like the life I lived, what could I expect? Growing up as a kid, like we weren't really structured for all that time. We had houses, and my dad worked, and we had houses, but it just, the structure just wasn't there. So I had made a decision, like, I am not going to let my dad go to the dump. It broke my heart. There was like no way. I just got out of prison 5 minutes ago. I just got back home. And I made a decision. I'm going in there to get my dad. And if something happens, so be it. But I'm going to get my dad out of there. And it was not the smartest decision, but I got in there clean. I got out clean. Didn't take anything else. I wasn't in there trying to rob. Just got my dad, got his earn, and got out. And that was that. So true story though. I mean, so that's how I got out of prison. I got out of prison, and it was like, right back in to the fire. What is that saying? Out of the oven into the fire, or whatever they say, out of the frying pan into the oven. That's how it was. That's legitly, truly what happened. Right back into the mess.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I ended up taking the money real quick. Let me say, I just took the money I saved up in there. I ended up taking that money that I had saved up, and I ended up getting a place. So I told my parole officer, I said, look, man, this is what happened. I got out, and there was an orange sticker on it, but I have money. I'm going to get my own place. He's like, all right, go ahead. So it ended up working out, in the end. I had to get my own spot, and I started doing good. And yeah, out in the fire, into the frying pan, or out of the oven into the frying pan, though.
Man, that's crazy, man. I'm gonna kind of go down and talk about your dad, man, because I know that's trauma that stays with you, probably plays in your head now. I know you can't blame yourself, but let me ask you, looking at what your relationship with your dad in that moment, what's something that you learned that still stick with you, but also that you feel that's near dear to you, that you carry in your passion and things that you did, that you think about your dad while you moving in God. And I say this because in my relationship with my dad, we didn't always have the greatest relationship. But we had some trial times when he was on drugs as well. Not the same as yours, but I can relate to it. But one thing, even in our relationship, when he was in his 40s, he lost his sight, but he did not lose his vision. He went on to get his master's and then get his doctorate, and that drives me now to even keep on going. Don't let adversity, don't let things that stop you from keep on striving. So no excuses, because you can still accomplish what you set your mind to do. And so let me ask you the same. What is it that you think that going farther? What keep you driven? What goes across your mind when you think about that?
Yeah, well, one thing about my parents is they never left each other's side in a bad mood. And I learned this at an early age. Like, they never left each other's side. I remember my dad coming back one time after they had an argument, and he had some flowers. And again, he looked like Hulk Hogan. You guys, my dad was big. He had the long hair. He had the driveways here. If you guys remember the Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, he looked just like Hulk Hogan, real big. And I remember him coming back home with flowers from my mom. It was the sweetest thing ever, because it's like, we just apologize for leaving on bad terms. And that was one thing that they didn't like, was to leave on a bad term. If they didn't hang up in a bad mood, as much as my parents fought and drank and argued and got into scuffles, they didn't leave each other in a bad mood, which I always thought that was honorable. I always liked that. And so for me to say that to my dad, it was like an absolute no-no in our world. Like, it don't matter what's going on. Like, you don't do that. That's just something we don't do. And that's the reason why, because he ended up passing away. And one thing I learned was, like, you don't wish harm on anybody, no matter what the case is, even on your enemies, because that stuff really might happen. And I'm telling you, it was like I would wake up thinking that it was a dream, and then like having to relive it. Like, I'm thinking, like, you wake up and like, dang, and this would be months later, years later, and I'm still reliving like him dying again. Like, there's no way that really happened. It's so surreal. Like, how did that even? There's no way. So I learned, not to leave anybody on bad terms if you can help it. Because my parents didn't. And here's the thing: my mom had cancer at the time. Shout out to my mom, man. She had cancer at the time. So my dad was taking care of my mom. She had this drip from like the chemo, and she had this drip of like the morphine, and she was at home, but she was getting radiation, chemo, and this morphine drip. And so my dad passed away when my mom had cancer, and it was like, it was rough on all of us, not just me or my mom, but everybody, because my mom was going through this cancer battle, and my dad was taking care of her, and it was like, he passes away, and it was like, now what? Like I'm, and when my dad passed away, I was like this high, this deep into the criminal world. I was robbing houses 2-3 times a day, 2-3 times a night. Like, I'm legitly like full blown professional burglar. And I'm like, I'm in it. I'm making hundreds of $1,000s a year, like legitly like making money. I can support my whole family on this. I got pounds of weed. I've got, whatever. And I'm like full blown into the, the criminal world. And my dad knew what I was doing, but he didn't support it. He didn't like it at all, but it was almost like if anytime they would like give me any flack, I would just run away. So it was like, they didn't want me to run away because I'd be gone for months at a time, at least 2-3 weeks at a time, sometimes months. And my parents were afraid of that. So I learned, having my mom, have cancer. My dad passed away. And when I was at his wake, we didn't have enough money to really get him a coffin. So he's in like this cardboard box, and I'm standing over him. And I remember my Uncle David, his brother, came up and put a pack of Camels in his upper pocket. He's like, don't grab those. He didn't know I didn't smoke. I didn't smoke cigarettes at the time, but I'm like, I want to be like, man, F you, man. You know what I mean? Get away from me, kind of thing, But so I'm standing over my dad's coffin, this cardboard box, and I don't know how long I'd been there, maybe an hour or two, who knows. And above his coffin, above where he was laying, there was you guys remember the old school bells, the round ones, and when the bell ding, 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 it real loud, real loud. And I'm just staring at my dad's face because I swear I'm seeing his face twitch. I'm like, it must have been from the, from the formaldehyde or whatever they inject him with, so that their body stays, from decomposing. And I'm seeing his lip like twitch. And I'm like, this mental side of me was like, he's gonna wake up. He's gonna wake up. You know what I mean? I'm thinking that, everything's gonna be okay. And as I'm staring at my dad's face and he's like looking over his body, this bell goes off. Okay. This loud bell. And it was only 2-3 feet away from my face. And this thing, and when this bell went off, it terrified the hell out of me. It scared the crap out of me. It was like the loudest sound I'd ever heard in my life. But what it did was it woke me up, because it was like that bell going off I felt like I could have died. I was so scared. But it was like, after that day, I realized like, okay, I just became from a boy to a man. I'm 17 years old. There is no looking back. I have the responsibility of taking care of the bills, taking care of my mom. I had 2 older brothers, but I don't even know where they were. My brother Nick, I think, was in Idaho. Nate, I think, was in juvenile. And it was me really taking care of my mom. And that's kind of where it boiled down to, was I now am coming into manhood like that. There's no more playing around. There's no more. It is literally me paying the bills. My mom's dying sick of cancer. And either I step up or my mom withers away to this cancer. And I was like, I'll be damned. I won't let it. So, and as I'm saying that, I was still heavily involved in doing dirt, was what I called it, still doing the crime. But now it was like I had the responsibility to make sure the bills were paid, that this functioning, this oiled machine had to be taken care of the home, which I didn't have anything, no responsibility before. So now it's like, from a boy to a man, 17 years old. My girlfriend was pregnant. I was actually out on parole when this happened. I was on parole as a kid. I had just got out of kid prison, and it was called Spring Mountain Youth Camp. I got out of kid prison. I was on parole. And my mom had cancer. My dad just passed away. I'm struggling to graduate for school, but I'm doing it. And this is true. I took 10 classes in the last 2 years, 11th and 12th grade in high school. They said, my counselor's like, look, don't come here and waste your time. You've got 20 credits to make up. You only have 3. You've got 2 years. It's not going to happen. So I went above his head. I got 10 classes both years. I ended up graduating. But what I'm saying is, like, going through all these motions, going through all this craziness that's going on, I still managed to keep things together, not just with myself, but with my family. And we ended up having my daughter Bray, and I was going into these Lamaze classes, and I was like, I felt like I was this good dad, and I was like doing these good things, but I was still doing crime. I was still doing dirt. This is before I went to prison. I mean, I went to kid prison, but I'm as an adult prison. So I had a lot going on. But one of the takeaways was my dad passing away was like, it is now time for me to really, I now have to be responsible. That didn't mean that I knew better than, I knew better than to do the crime, but it was like, now responsibility meant to pay the bills and be a responsible dad. So a lot of the stuff came to a slowdown, but I was already involved in this lifestyle for by this time, 5, 6, 7, about probably close to 8 years, I had been, robbing things and stealing and in that life of crime. So this is what I knew. I knew how to do this, and I was really good at it. So now I had to unlearn that, because I had a baby now, and my mom's she's starting to beat the cancer, and so I graduated high school, And now, so things are starting to really turn for me. I'm like, okay, now I've got this baby, so there's no more going out and doing stupid crap. My daughter was born, and I didn't rob after that. That was really that was the point for me where I was like, okay, you're not going to do this anymore. You're not going to put yourself in danger. You're not going to put your kid in danger. And so I pretty much stopped robbing stuff, and it became a dad. And so that was like the turning point for me. You know what I mean? It was being a dad and my mom coming out of cancer and her beating that after my dad dying and all the things going on, graduating, all that stuff. So a lot of turning points in that time in my life.
Okay. So let me just make sure. Did you stop for a season, or did you do a little bit more crime to get you in jail, or was you just get caught up on some old stuff that is caught up with you?
Yeah. So I stopped for a while because my daughter, she was born, and it was like time to be a dad. You know what I mean? After my daughter was born, it was like really time to buckle down and be there for my girlfriend at the time, Sheena, she's my son's godmother. Shout out to Sheena and Arthur. Those are two of my closest friends. Still super, super tight with them. It's a crazy story. Before I'll get back to what our story was, but Arthur is one of my homies from my neighborhood, one of my closest buddies of my whole life. I've known him since we were 2, and we rocked together our whole life. He lives down the street from me. We are still super tight. That's my daughter's stepdad. So, they end up hooking up after we kind of like split up. And, typically that's like, you hear that like when your buddies get with your exes and it's like, all right, we're not cool anymore. Well, we didn't let that affect our friendship. You know what I mean? So it ended up strengthening things because it was like, I couldn't have asked for a better person to be around my daughter. Right. So, I'm saying that to say that, when it come down to my daughter ended up moving up to, so, I'm doing good. It's ish. And meaning, I wasn't doing any crime, wasn't really doing any drugs, wasn't doing anything, stupid. But me and my daughter's mom, Sheena, split up and they ended up moving up to Reno, which again, at this point, I'm in Las Vegas. And so they moved to Reno, which is the reason I'm here now. So this is back in 2002, 2003, maybe 2004. And so they move up here, and for some reason it killed me inside. I had my daughter here, and then like the next day she was gone. I was like, damn, that was like my focal point. That was like, that was my mountain, my rock, my foundation, that kept me, having her in my life was like, okay, I am this great dad. I'm a great dad. I'm going to these Moz class. I'm doing all these, and when she left, it was like, it broke my heart. It was like a piece of me was gone. She wasn't like gone, but she was gone to where she wasn't in my life every day. I'm like going to catch the bus to see her, and I couldn't get my license because I had gotten in trouble for stealing cars as a kid. So I wasn't able to get my license for, a couple years after I turned 18 kind of thing. So, so I'm catching the bus, going to get her. And really what happened was it just threw me in a loop of like I would consider to be maybe like a depression. You know what I mean? I had this void of this, my baby girl, and she's no longer there. So I'm like, so I started using, this is when I started using substance. I mean, I had smoked, a little bit of, the trees, did a couple, the hallucinogens, but this is when I started doing the substance. It was like as soon as she left, I'm like, somebody introduced me to substance, and I got into that. And then after that, then I got back into the robbing. So my daughter wasn't there, got back into the robbing and stealing. Now, this is the first time I've been robbing and stealing as I'm like, under the influence, because before I wouldn't do that. I mean, my life is at stake here. I'm over here getting into houses. Anytime I see somebody in my house, I'm going to probably pull the trigger, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So I'm putting myself back in danger, but now I'm intoxicated on substance. And it was just like the cycle kind of started back over where I'm like, now I'm knee deep back into this criminal world again. And it seemed like I was getting further and further away from my daughter. You know what I mean? It's like, the more drugs I did and the less time I spent, like being involved with my daughter, like the further I got away from her. So, and then before you know it, that's when the story came about where I got in trouble and put on probation for, robbing stuff. And that's, that's kind of how that all unfolded after my daughter was, kind of like, I wouldn't say taken, but they left to another city, and it just threw me for a loop, man. It was put me right back, and nothing put me there. I put myself back there, but that's how I dealt with stuff, I guess, was going to, the criminal world, because there was a certain high about it. There was this thing of like, it was just, I mean, there was just something about it. And again, I'm not glorifying this. I'm saying that's just how I lived. That's just the lifestyle I had. It was addictive to be involved in this and be able to get away with this kind of stuff. I don't want it to sound like I'm like this is a plus thing at all, but it was part of my life. And so, and it, the life and how my life turned is like, I mean, I had so many ups and downs, roller coasters that I put myself through, but I'm extremely glad that I went through all this stuff. Like anyone else, you know, we are where we're at now due to that stuff. Could it have been a bit easier? And could I have, you know, done myself a bit, you know, better, bigger favors by not getting into trouble? Of course, but I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And I don't know if that's a way for us to kind of cop out or feel, hey, I'm where I'm at now thanks to those stories. But I'm just gonna stick to that and say, if it wasn't for those crazy times, I wouldn't be here now, kind of thing, right, Stephen?
Yeah, and I want to kind of tie this into where you are now. Now, now talking about when you got out, now your family, you got another place going, you getting reestablished. What was the life now that you gotten out, and now you back in your environment? Did you get away now that you moved with some of those struggles, but also what shaped you to moving forward?
Man, yeah, man, you asked some really good questions, bro. I mean, like, this is great. So, yeah, so 6 years ago, close to seven, I met Letty. Okay, so this story, I'm gonna say, like, I'm gonna kind of keep it down. My son's out here. So I was involved with a woman, and I had known her for a couple years, and we ended up getting pregnant. You know, I was with her when we ended up getting pregnant, and I had stopped using. This was almost 7 years ago. Yeah, about 7 years. My son's almost seven. He'll be seven in like 3 weeks. So she ends up getting pregnant, and I decide, okay, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit using, and so so this little boy. Well, I didn't know he was a boy,
Let
but
me stop you for a
I stopped
second.
using. She
Let me
kept
stop you
using.
for a
Like,
second. So, what led you back? Did you get back in the streets? How did you end up getting back into drugs and things like that? Because 120 you was clean,
yeah.
but now something happened in between it. So let's go there first.
Okay, yeah. So I'll start back. I got out of prison, right? Got out of prison. This was 2004, and I started doing good. Got back into the drug world. So and I had like, man, I had everything going for me. I had when I got out of prison. I got out of prison. I had this really fantastic job. I was making like at this time $1,500 a week was good. Was good money. This is back 2004. 1,500 a week for me was good. Had a great job. Had a vehicle with TVs in it, rims, and I was like doing good. Got back into the drug world, and then I ended up moving. So I got back to the drug world for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And I was like, okay, it's time to move before I get back in more trouble. So I ended up moving up to Idaho to my mom's around 2006, 2007, moved up to Idaho. And then I got up there, did good for a minute. And when I was about to go to college, and I got back into the drug world. And I got back into the drug world kind of heavy. So I was selling and doing, and this happened. This crazy story happened. People came in my house with guns, and they held they basically were coming to home invade us. This is in Idaho, and they come to home invade us, and I fight these dudes off. There's like four dudes. I open up my door in my room, and I live down in the basement. My mom lived upstairs, and I opened my door up, and my door was a curtain, and this dude had a gun on my face. Was like, get on the ground. And so I remember kicking this gun out of his hand, and the gun sliding, and the four dudes behind him. I'm like, I grabbed the gun real quick, and I had nowhere to run. So I ran to my room, and instead of shooting these dudes, I shot into the wall because I figured, like, if I shoot these dudes, if I shoot this dude right here behind me, which I didn't want to shoot him anyways, but I got this gun in my hand. If I don't shoot him, they're going to shoot me. So what I did was, instead of them getting the gun and shooting me, I aimed at the wall and pulled the trigger, boom, boom, boom. And I emptied this. It was only 2-shot Derringer gun, but I emptied the clip out into the wall. And um, so I'm fighting these dudes, and I'm like, they hit me. I don't know if it's a pistol or bat or what, but they beat me up good. And so they end up leaving. They end up getting nothing from the house. My brother they have my mom and my brother upstairs at gunpoint, and his little babies at gunpoint. My brother pulled a knife on them and hit one of them, and they end up running. All of you end up running. They didn't get anything from the house. It was on the news. And then I'm down in the basement, and like, they had got me good. I ended up having 190 stitches in my face, 10 staples. So, and 3 fractured. My retina was almost fully detached. I mean, they hit me and it squeezed my eye, and it like almost fully detached my retina. And so I'm like beat up. Both my eyes are closed shut. I can't see nothing. I remember hearing my brother come down. I'm laying on the ground. I'm just like tired. I'm like, I fought these dudes, feel like, for 20 minutes. And my brother came down. He's like, oh, dang, oh, he thought I was shot because there's blood everywhere. Well, they didn't shoot me. They didn't even get anything. I fought these dudes, man. I scrapped. I was like really fighting for my life. And so they're taking me out on the stretcher, and like And so that was like another eye opener for me. It was like, I put my family in danger. These people came into our home in Idaho because I was selling, I was using, I had a lot of like, I was actually doing like, I was successful in the trim, in the like the in the green area, but I got heavily involved in like some of the heavier stuff, and that brought other people around, and so they wanted what I had. They came home invaded, and then it was like from that day on, I was terrified of people. I was like, man, I was deathly afraid of everybody. I was like, if you weren't my family, like you were out to get me. And so like these people came to my house, they almost killed me. I barricaded myself. I literally had a stick against the door, a big 2x4 for the door. Like it traumatized the heck out of me. So I'm in Idaho. I went to go visit my mom, and before you know it, like I'm petrified. Like this is like 5-6 years later that I've been living with my mom, and these people came into the house, and so, and I was like, I can't stay here anymore. I was like deathly afraid of everybody. So I got back, from drugs. I ended up getting sober, back into drugs. So the whole, like, basically my whole life been bouncing around, being sober, using again, being sober, using again. But I'm not getting into trouble. I'm not like getting and going and robbing as much. I'm not like going to jail really. I mean, like not compared to what I was doing. So, and I might be going kind of everywhere with this, but I'm leading up to where I'm kind of at in life like now. So it's been off and on with drugs, and the criminal kind of stopped. The crime stuff stopped like probably, I don't know, like 10 years ago, like where I finally like actually just quit for good. You know what I mean? Because again, it was addictive. I mean, so I don't mean to get off, you know what I mean, and confuse anybody with my story here, but so where I'm tying this into where I'm at now with my son Justin. He's 6. He'll be 7 in 3 weeks. And I'm in Idaho still. I'm in Idaho. I had moved to Reno, moved back to Idaho, and I met this gal, and we knew each other for a few years. She ends up getting pregnant. We moved back down here to Reno. She's pregnant. I'm like, okay, it's time to quit using drugs completely. And I'm on probation from Idaho down here. And long story short, I ended up having to leave this lady because she was using these drugs, and this kid, I'm like, I didn't want anything to do with this person that's using drugs that's pregnant. It was totally against what I could do. I couldn't keep her I couldn't stop her. So I ended up leaving and I'm going to jail. Well, I'm in jail. Check this out. I'm in jail, and this is in Carson City, Nevada, right? Carson City, Nevada, where I'm in jail, and I get a call from my cell to go up to the front where the booking area. And if you guys aren't familiar, anybody who's been to jail, if you get called from your cell to booking, it typically means you're getting charges. You're getting new charges, meaning like, okay, they might have found something out that I did on the streets. Maybe I'm getting caught for something I did before. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, damn, I'm going to booking. And so I get up there, and the staff, they hand me the phone and say, yeah, this is CPS. They want to talk to you. I said, CPS? And like, hello? They said, yeah, is this Justin Bird? I said, it is. They said, okay, well, we had this little boy here. The mother left him here in the hospital, and she hasn't been back. It's been 2 weeks now. And she said that you're the potential father. Do you want anything to do with this little baby? I said, I'm like, I got a son? What? I got a son? And they said, yeah, well, potentially there's this. And I didn't think the baby inside her was going to live. So I kind of, as crazy as it sounds, you guys, I didn't really know that the baby was going to be born. I thought as much as she was using, she wasn't eating right. She wasn't like prenatals, wasn't going to the hot. I mean, I thought this baby wasn't going to make it. So I just kind of like, I didn't like just forget about it, but I was like, I really didn't expect the baby to be here. And so I'm on this phone. And I'm like that second, like my whole life changed, like right there. My whole life changed. I was like, I'm in tears where I'm in jail. I'm like, I got a son. I got 2 older daughters. And in my family, this is true for 11 generations. It was all boys on the Bird side, BIRD, all boys for 11 generations. It was like 190 years we had. Oh, not 190 years. What was it? 11 generations. So it was close to 200 years. All boys, like legitly all males on our father's side for 11 generations. And so my sister was the first female bird born on our side in 11 generations. It made the news, and it was like a big deal. And so for me to have a daughter was like, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't supposed to have daughters. I'm supposed to have boys. My brothers have all boys. I mean, I think you have one niece, but I'm saying this to say I have 2 daughters, which I wouldn't even supposed to really have one. So I got 2 daughters. I'm like, so I got this son now, right? I got this son, and I'm like, I'm in jail, and they're like, "What do you want anything to do with him?" I say, "Yeah, heck yeah, I want. Yes, what do I got to do?" I said, "Well, first you got to get out, and then come get him out of CPS. You need to come be able to get this little boy out of the system. He's here. The mother left him in the hospital. He's in our care now. You're gonna have to get out and get him out of the system." I said, "Okay." So I was in there. My bail was like $5,000, and I forgot what I was in there for. I don't remember, but my boss that I had worked for, I let him know. I said, "Hey man, I got there's this, the CPS called me. I told him the story, and he bailed me out that day." So he bailed me out, took like 5,000 cash, got me out of there. And that was the last time I was ever in jail. I've never been back since. He's almost 7. I haven't been in no trouble. It did something finally over all these years that did something. Although even after that, I still got into drugs until like a year and a half ago. So it was like a kind of a repetition, something that, addiction's addiction. But yeah, so my son is born. And then I'm just kind of jumping ahead here. My son was born, and my mom moved up here and had cancer just like 4 years ago. We found out she had cancer again. She beat this cancer the first time. And so now she's like, we found out she had cancer and she doesn't want to fight it anymore. She's like, I don't want to fight this anymore. I'm not going to do the chemo. I'm not going to do all that crap I did. I just let it be. And so we move her up here from Arizona. And so she's living with us, and it triggered something in me again. So my mom, and I was sober, I'm doing good as being a father, and I'm back in my daughter's life. And so my mom, she's here. She passed away right where I'm sitting, and we had a great time. It was good because, again, even in the darkest times, I'm going to find the light, you guys. I'm going to find the most positive I can, even in the dark. My mom was passing away, but at least we got to spend time with her. At least she wasn't taken in a car accident. Okay, so now I'm like, I know my mom's going to pass soon, so I'm going to make the best of it. So, but I started using. And here's the crazy part, was like, we decided to take care of my mom instead of having her go to like a home or hospice or be in the hospital. We wanted her to be here, be comfortable. My lady Leti doesn't smoke in her own house, but she let my mom smoke in her house, and it was like she got to be comfortable here. So my mom was dying; she died of cancer, and I got back into using drugs. So I had my son here, and I'm in the garage, and I'm using drugs. And one thing that had me, my mom ends up passing away, and I'm still using, like two years into after she passed away, and I'm in the garage, and my son comes out there, like I'm having to hide what I was doing. And I thought about it, like, here's what really, really did it for me, guys. What if my son gets into drugs simply by seeing what I'm doing, or sees what I'm doing, or ends up getting a hold of what I have and gets into it? And I'm like, I made this decision, like, I will be damned if I'm the reason my son gets into this crazy stuff that I had got because of me. It was January 1st, 2024 was the last time I used anything. Okay. I mean, I drank a little bit until this month. In like 3 weeks, I'll be fully sober for a year. The longest I've ever gone sober will be in like a few days. It'll be my first time being sober for a year from anything. I mean, everything: nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, heavy drugs. So I got 2 more weeks and I'll be a full year, which is a milestone. But yeah, so my son walking in the garage and seeing me was really that time where it was like, all right, I'm choosing to no longer be that person. And so I put it down cold turkey. I haven't done any of the NA or AA. By no means am I saying that I'm better than people who do the NA or AA. I was just like, I did the AA once or twice and it just wasn't for me. I'm like, okay, I'm so strong willed. I know this is where I just quit, and I'm finally done. You know what I mean? I lost some of the stuff that I had. And I found it later, and I was like, I don't want it anymore. So, and I knew I'm finally done. Over all the years that I've been through this, I know I've said it before. You guys are witnessing, hearing me say it. I've been through it, but I knew I was done, because there's something in my mind that's different in my body and everything than it was all these years. And so I'm really proud of myself, man. You know?
So let's talk a little bit about what life is like since then, in this last year. What has life been like for you?
Okay. So yeah, man, I'll tell you what. So it's been a year and a half, a year and 10 months. And man, the very first month I got sober, I put it down. I decided to get involved with a team called Spectacular School of Business, which is Master P, Spectacular Smith from Pretty Ricky, Jamie D'Souza. We had Desmond soon. So I got involved with this academy, and this academy was like, social media income. and how to better your presence on social media. So I've literally was sober like maybe 25 days, and I seen this ad, and then so I got involved with this academy, and I got really heavily into it. So me and my lady Leti, we invested in ourselves, got into this academy, and went out to Punta Cana, and so a couple months in, I decided, okay, I quit. I quit these heavy drugs, and I decided to quit vaping. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I can quit this, I can quit anything. So I stopped vaping. And then a couple months after that, I stopped drinking alcohol because I found out I gave up the heavy drugs, the substance, but I was drinking a little bit. I was drinking like every day. And so I'm like, I got to quit this before it becomes a heavy habit. You know what I mean? So I ended up quitting the alcohol this time last year. And then after that, I ended up quitting caffeine all in the same year. And it was just really, these were like parts of my life that I didn't need anymore. Even caffeine, you guys might think it's something simple, but I was like having problems with my heart. I was like, dang, I'm drinking all these Red Bulls, caffeine. I'm like, and again, it's like a substance, so to speak, too. It's like I quit this, quit that, and I feel like I'm picking up other things. But it was like, okay, I'm quitting all this stuff. I'm quitting all these things. So then within this year, I quit all these things. And during that year, I was the first time ever going out of the country. I went to Punta Cana with Spectacular Smith and the Academy on a retreat. And, I was recognized for being basically like the heart of this entire community of these millionaires and people that are successful. And they're like, you're the epitome of what we want our entire community to be like. And so they held me up to like, we're giving you this very first award that we've never given anybody before. And so they get gifted to me this out in Punta Cana. And as I'm out there, this guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, what do you do? I'm dressed in this nice white suit, I'm decked out. He's like, what do you do? I was like, I'm a fatherhood coach. I'm recently sober. He's like, how would you like to be, the ambassador for the brand ambassador for my vodka company? And he was in Canada. This dude didn't know me, but he's like, oh, I love your appearance. I love your energy. And so I'm starting to see, like the people are, they're seeing my energy, my drive. And like, people are like, gravitating toward it. So I got this opportunity to do that. And when I get back home, my favorite group, Bone Thugs and Harmony, is coming to Reno. So I reach out to the people that are throwing the event at J Resort, this casino. And I said, hey, I'd love to be able to get a meet and greet with Bone. What do I got to do? Well, this lady seen my energy. She felt my energy on the phone. She's like, hey, I'm doing an audition for the Master of Ceremonies for this concert. And I'm thinking she's saying that she's going for this audition. I'm like, oh, cool. She's like, no, I want you to audition for the position for the Master of Ceremonies. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, for Bone Thugs and Harmony. I was like, say less. So I go to interview for this, audition, and they gave me the keys to the MC spot. So I'm getting these, left and right. I'm getting all these accolades and all this opportunity, and it's just like all this stuff's falling in my lap. But I deserve this, I feel, because I'm like, I have this energy, I have this spunk, I have this charisma, I have this way of, the energy, the light, so to speak, and people are seeing it. So I got to be the master of ceremony of my favorite group in the whole world, man. Bone Thugs and Harmony is like my favorite group. Not only did I get to be the MC of this, after the concert, I got to kick it with my idols, bro. I got to kick it with my idols, and I told my boy, my daughter's stepdad, my boy from my neighborhood that I've known my whole life, I said, hey, I feel something big time about to happen. Grab this phone and record this. And as soon as he pushed record, one of my favorite idols says, man, I love everything about you, man. You the make it happen, man. And he said, come here, let me see your suit, bro. And he got it all on video of my idols idolizing me. And we spent like legitimately like 4.5 hours with our idols, bro. And they were idolizing me. And I'm saying all this to say that this all come about because I was allowing myself to step in my true light of me being sober, of me being the genuine me, who I know how to be the best, and not hiding behind substance or alcohol or even nicotine or whatever it may be. I'm like finally stepping into my light that I deserve to be stepped into. And so I'm living like my dream right now. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I literally just got to spend like 4 hours with my idols. I got to pull them out on stage, and you know what I mean? So it was been surreal. And even since then, I had dinner with Master P. If you guys aren't familiar with Master P, he's a huge rap mogul, a business, he's an entrepreneur, like he's huge. And so I had dinner with him in April, and I mean, like so many positive things. I met Steven here in Atlanta by being picked out of 624 people up on a stage. And they said, we want you at our event. So they chose me out of 624 people, me and 2 other people, to be flown out to Atlanta. like all expenses paid, food, rides, everything paid for, the events, everything. And I got to sit up front. And so I think these things are really contributing to me stepping into my light, me being able to be me at my fullest potential. And I tell you what, all of this I can first of all give to God, because I'm telling you, none of us would have without God. None of us, we wouldn't be here without it, right? And so I have been able to really enjoy life to the fullest for it by simply just, you know, sticking to God's plan, not my plan. I'm learning like my plan didn't work. My plan was not where it's at. God has a plan for me, man. Whew. And I'm living so well. There's a lot of work, but I'm seeing like my potential, and I'm stepping into the light, and it feels so good right now. You know what I mean? Again, me and you met because just simply being myself. Out of 624 people, I don't know if they spun a wheel. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Nehemiah Davis. They say they spun a wheel, but I'm just saying I got the energy like I'm supposed to be up front. You guys want me at your event. You guys want me to be there in the front. Trust me. Trust me, you want me at your event. You know what I mean? You definitely want my energy in the front row. And so I feel like a lot of this is stemming from me being the fullest potential Justin Bird that I can be. So that's man, that's the past year been great. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
man, I don't know about you or anybody else, but it got me fired up because what I see about you is you're not living on just the fact that you have potential, but you're willing to go the extra mile to put it all on the line as often and well as needed. I was telling Talik earlier that this is crazy. Last week you were on a men's call. I got a call from Talik when I was at a show morning. When I called him back, now he called me too this evening. He called me too an hour before you called me, and he guess what we talked about. He said that guy who's on your call, Justin. You need to make sure you connect. He got that in. The same thing. That's why I threw away you on that call because he called me to tell me and talk about you. And what this is doing even for me is to saying you living out loud. You're not living in regret. You're living with pushing the limits, and that motivates me to say you got to live this play all the way through.
Hmm.
And so I think about as I'm moving forward, there's certain people that is necessary at the table. And the thing about me is you don't go to people and say what you need you to do for me, but what can I help do with you and for you and work and grow together. And so that is so important to know that you're going to add value to others. And in return, you're going to receive something in return. You're going to receive value. And so with that said, let me ask you, what is some of the things now that you're doing to add value into others that you have an opportunity to serve and to be able to help push forward? And I know by doing that, it's actually going to bring forth a harvest back under you. So what does it look like for you?
Yeah, great question. And just to kind of recap, because I mean the sound might be a little off for those who are watching now. He was mentioning that one of his buddies that he knows, someone he's close to, called him earlier today and was like, "Hey, man, that dude Justin that was on your show, because I was on Steven's show just the other day. He has a men's group, so to speak, that he hosts, and it was my first time being there. And somebody who's close to him said, "Hey, that dude Justin that came on your show, you need to really be close to this dude. He's got some fire in him." And so, for those who didn't hear, this is what he's talking about: is that, and then we end up getting on a phone call, him, myself, and Steven. We got on a phone call, and he's like, "Man, I appreciate you being you," kind of like give me some accolades. And I was like, I'm glad they called, because being around these kind of people is where I need to be. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but Master P had told me, if people ain't pushing you to do better, it was probably best to exclude them out of your life. And I have taken that seriously. When he told me this in April, this is a few months ago, and having them call me just not too long ago, it was like really, I was like, okay, this is where it's at. I have people who are like-minded. We have some of the similar goals in mind of like, not just getting to the bag, not just getting to the finish line, but being able to help people along the way. Because what he had just asked right now was like, what are some attributes, some things that I could say that I'm diving into or leaning into now that potentially might be helping others, so to speak, or what are some things that I'm doing that can help others along the way grow? And so one of the things is, I decided a few months ago that I'm going to go and I'm going to talk at the prisons. I'm going to go and I'm going to talk at the jails, and I'm going to go and start getting into being able to give back first to the community, whether it be through the the juveniles or the inmates. Shout out to Letty, who's on right now. She's doing some things with, you know what I mean, so with some stuff in her life that's helping others too. And I feel like it's okay. Here's how I look at it. If I'm really doing stuff to get something back, I like deeply, like inside of me, I'm like, do I do stuff to get back, to get something back? Because if you guys are honest with yourself, I don't think there's anything that we're doing without the intention of even getting at least a gratification back. Because if you're going and giving your energy out and it's really, there's nothing coming back from it, even if it's gratitude, then there's a good chance that, and this is just my opinion, that the energy that you're giving is like, we all want something in return. We all want, even if it's a thank you, right? We all want to feel, even if you give money like confidentially, and you just want it, that's for you. If you're giving it and you don't want anything back, you're still getting something, right? We're still getting something. It's not like, and I could be wrong, I'm not saying this for everybody, I'm just saying in general sense, as humans, I don't think that we go eat food and digest this food and turn it to energy just to go give it away. That energy is not easy to come by. Okay. And I could be wrong. I'm just saying we do things because, we would like to think that we're good enough people to have good enough people around us. Right. So by us giving back, there are people who are genuine. By no means am I saying that people don't just give out of their heart just to give. I'm saying, but deeply inside, we want to know that, hey, it went somewhere good. If you're donating, your organ donor, you want to know that, you know what I mean? You're donating, it's going to go to a cause. So with giving back, I feel like, yeah, there's that, that side. It's like, you're going to be able to receive the end when you see on your end of these kids that you're impacting, or these even adults that you're impacting. So for me, it's being able to go and let people hear my story, because I feel like there's a lot of inspiration in me. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of parts of me that people are gonna like be able to resonate with. Like I can feel that. You know what I mean? And so, but I think a lot of people don't really get up and take a swing at the ball, so they never even get a chance to strike out. I'm at that point right now where, like, I want people to be able to hear, like, look, I struck out a bunch, but now I'm able to stand in front of you guys and say, I'm no different, no better than anybody, but I've bettered myself. And so to contribute to being able to give back is the goal here. So I'm waiting on the paperwork. It's been a couple months. They said it might take up to 6 months to get the paperwork back for me to go into the systems to go and talk with the inmates. And I don't know what the for the juveniles yet, but I think at first I have to wait to get back the intake information to be able to go into the jails and stuff. So that's where I'm at right now. It's been a year and a half for me, and I want to go give back. I want to serve. I mean, one thing I learned is give 7 times and ask once. You know what I mean? That's something someone told me. You want to be able to give 7 times, and then you can ask. But if you're able to serve, I think Alicia Little was mentioning this too, and so was Nehemiah, about if you're able to really make an impact and give back, the stuff's going to come back to you without intention of being able to receive stuff. If we can really go give our energy and be able to give, it's sometimes hard, I feel, to just go give and not get something back and feel like that's something you're going to continue to do, right? Like, but those who faithfully serve are servants. Like Jesus, he rubbed, he washed the feet of his disciples. Even though he knew one of them was betraying him, he still washed their feet. Said, listen, it don't matter what you did or are about to do, I'm still a servant, even though you guys are under my care. Under when I'm doing, I'm still a servant to people. And so I love that feeling. I love that idea of being able to give back. And by no means am I an angel or perfect, but I'm working on me. You know what I mean? I'm working on me. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to be able to give back without open arms to get and receive anything in return.
Man, that's beautiful what you just shared. And this is a good way for us to close out. Because what I'm seeing from you just saying is the beauty of being a servant leader. We all have an area and we have been gifted to have. And we're not to rule over men, but we're to rule over a gift. And when you take responsibility of that area of gifting and you're giving it unto others freely, it will bring forth a harvest in due season. So a seed time, and then you receive a harvest. And that's what I'm receiving with you saying. And what you have to do is be able to plant that seed in what? Fertile ground in order for it to bring forth that harvest. And so with that said, man, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule, not finding robbery to share your heart, share your story, share your journey so that others can receive a increase of what you've been through, which is your misery, to actually produce your ministry to be able to help others, man. So continue doing what you're doing, and I look forward to connecting with you more and doing what we can to help support that journey moving forward. But if you can, let people know something they're feeling that what's something that you would like to see happen for their lives. Maybe encouraging word, but also how they can connect with you in the future.
Boom. Hey, that's a perfect ending question with this, brother. So, one thing I want to say before anything else goes on, my Biz Success Academy family has been my foundation. Shout out to my partners. Shout out to my people in Biz Success Academy. And February of this year, my partner, one of my boys, Coach Charles Floyd, he introduced me to my now partners in Biz Success Academy, and I tell you what is I think having the right who's no, I know that having the right who's is everything right now. So for anybody who's going through life's happening, having the right people around you is essential. Because I mean, if you're around people who are knuckleheads, and I don't mean to call names, I'm just saying people that aren't doing that well in life, that are more, steered toward the negative side of things. I've been around that, and yeah, it can be fun. Yeah, it can be exciting. Yeah, it can be all these things that might feel like they're, but it's not wholesome. It's not genuine. It's not like there's not that. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking for me. But now that I'm in the business realm, I have met some people around me that are holding me, to the fire, that are like, they see my drive, they see my energy. So Biz Success Academy, I'm a co-founder of an academy, and it's big news because it's not just a business home. This is like my family. And so they've welcomed me in, they've included me into being one of the co-founders, and say, hey, we see you, we see your light, we love your energy. We want you to be a part of what we're doing here. So we just started, the founding was in February, and this is from the ground floor up, and we've been building Biz Success Academy. And I personally am the founder of Just Informing You, with Justin and Informing You. And so this is a vision that is come about just really in just being in business of like, what can I do to be able to help? And I started out as a fatherhood coach, right? I've got a fatherhood coach book that, in fact, I'm a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And it's, if you even just type in Justin Bird in Amazon, my book comes up, and it's a fatherhood book. And so it's basically being not just a bestseller, but a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And if you guys are interested in becoming a #1 bestseller, I could show you how to do that off of here too. But having the right who's around you is everything, because you could have all the right ingredients to bake a cake, but if you don't have the tools or the people around to help you get the ingredients and figure out what you need, then it's going to be your cake's going to come out it's not going to come up right. It's not going to rise. It's not going to. And so I think having the right who's around you is essential. And so again, my business partners, my family that's holding me, up in life right now, my business have been my rock in the business world. And so, and again, like I want to say, ending this, that if you have, 4 millionaires around you, there's a good chance that you're going to be the fifth. And I'm not just speaking on money. I'm just saying in general in life. If you're around a bunch of people who are doing negative, there's a good chance that you're going to be doing negative. So find your circle of people who believe in you, that want to see you do good, that are pushing you to do better, and they want to see you on top of the best you. You know what I mean? I'll tell you one thing. When I started, telling people that hey, I'm coming up, and my family, like the people that are close to me, is like, it's kind of like they dropped off in a sense. You know what I mean? To the people who it's almost like they're seeing me do better in life, and it's like, I don't mean for it to be anything but good, but it's almost like maybe it's showing them that they could do better and they don't want to be around it. I don't know, but I'm not getting that support in my immediate family like I was hoping for. It's kind of like I'm getting shunned about it, and I don't know why, which is fine by me, because again, I'm finding and seeking people out like yourself. Me and you are about to knock this out, bro. Me and you are about to really get into it and do some big time things, because we're not here by accident. Me and you aren't here talking on this podcast for no reason. You know what I mean? We have got some work to do, and it's good to have people like yourself around me to not only hold me up, but keep me accountable, and let me see that not only do you guys see the light in me, but I need to be reminded sometimes too. I do have that light, man. What am I? I'm absolutely fantastic. So are you. So it's good to have people like you guys around me, holding me to it, and because again, when when I win, you guys win. Those people who are close to me, like, man, just grab onto me, man. My energy is something else. Just come with me, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So anybody who's close to me, I always say, whoever decides to pull me with them, we're about to be balling, man. We're about to make it. I'm brand new to this business world. I can't wait to see where I'm gonna be at next year. You know what I mean? So that's what I got, man. Thank you for having me,
No
brother.
doubt, no doubt, my brother. I'm thinking the sky is the limit, and you can soar with the eagles if you're willing to
Yes.
take flight. And so I want to just thank you again, my brother, for taking time to be here. And we're looking forward to connecting with you and help push you forward as best we can. But also, we want to thank everybody for taking time out of y'all schedule to listen to this podcast. But I just ask you not just to be a good listener, but to take this information and take action. Because when you take action, it will change situations in your life. And so until next time, y'all go out here, win and win on purpose. Be great.
Love you guys. Thanks, brother. I'll see you soon, man.
No doubt, be great, brother. Thank you.
God bless y'all.